So, hello and welcome back to TRU Talks with me, Chris Hill. And as you can see, I am joined by Nick Williams this morning. And as many of you will know, he's very highly regarded in Pro14 circles, and especially amongst those with a Cardiff Blues persuasion as well. And also after he has announced his retirement fairly recently as well, the messages Nick must have received from Cardiff Blues fans show how much he was highly regarded there as well. So Nick, thank you so much for giving us your time to chat to us today on Talking Rugby Union. And before we sort of get into talking about your playing career and obviously the Pro14, which starts up again this weekend, let's just touch on that point about you announcing your retirement earlier this month. I mean, was that a tough decision for you, or was it an easy decision, or a bit of both because of how long you were able to carry on playing for?
Yeah, like you said, Chris, mate, it was a bit of both. It was a decision that I probably made in the last probably 6 months. You know, the body started feeling it quite a bit. So I just thought, I've had a good crack at it, so I'll try and jump on the other side of the fence. So I was at peace when I made it anyway. You know, it was, but the love and the support I got from people once it was announced was very special.
Yeah, because I saw in an interview that you did, Nick, that you said Cardiff was always going to be sort of your last club. So did you know it was sort of going to come to an end maybe this year, or was there a chance that you may be able to squeeze out another year?
Like last year, I was seriously thinking about it. And then, the back end of the season, the body started feeling good. I started, playing some decent rugby still. So I thought, I'll give it a bit of a crack. And we got a team, a lot of young boys in our team. So I thought it was my responsibility to try and mentor them through and just put my arm around them and kind of show them the ropes kind of thing.
And is a career in homeschooling going to be next for you, Nick? I've seen over Twitter and Instagram over the course of the lockdown period, you've been trying to teach your kids a few tricks with marshmallows and balloons, I believe.
It's amazing what boredom does to the mind, So my kids will get me back in about 10 years' time, I'm sure that.
And just on to sort of your career, if you don't mind, Nick. I mean, how do you reflect on it? Because we have a chat with a number of players who say, well, yeah, we had a tough start, but we were able to work hard and progress in our career. And some people may have the viewpoint that rugby players get it handed to them on a plate, if you like. So you play at age grade level, you go into academies, you go into professional, and it's all done for you. But listening and reading to a few interviews you've had recently, Nick, you've talked about sort of your humble upbringing, and it seems like that shaped you into the person and the player that you've become.
Yeah, I mean, you remember rugby's just a job, Chris. A lot of people forget that. We just got, our jobs primarily what people see, which is that 80 minutes on the pitch every weekend. But what people don't see is what goes behind the scenes. When people are stuck in traffic, we're already running around the track and already in the gym and that kind of thing. I guess, I probably come from a different era to what it is now. But, when I was back in my younger days, you had to pull weight. There was no shortcuts. When you would, when the older boys were told you to do, you had to kind of do it. So, things are kind of evened out a bit now, where it's not as old school and the regime's not as tougher, but, the morals and the standards are still there, and that's something that I've held throughout my whole career.
And those things that you mentioned there about the old school things, if you like, Nick, was that something that drove you on to play rugby at school and sort of maybe make a career out of it and follow playing rugby? Because I know you started out in rugby league, but rugby union came to you when you joined a new school, if that's right.
Yeah, it was totally by accident, really. My first love was rugby league, and the high school I went to, like I said, didn't have a league team, so I had to play rugby. So the morals are very similar to league and rugby. You got a few rules you have to tweak here and there, but it's the camaraderie and the spirit that you bring as an individual to the game that molds you as a player, throughout your whole career, if you're lucky to have one.
And you mentioned, of course, you played a bit of rugby league and then moved into Union, Nick, and obviously played in the Super Rugby with the Blues. But then the chance to come to Europe pops up for you, and I guess for any player joining Munster, it's always going to be a bit daunting because of the history behind the club and the size of the club. But for you, moving over from the other side of the world to come to Europe, that must have been some experience for you.
Oh, I tell you what, it was very, very daunting. A young Polynesian boy, coming up the other side of the world. I remember telling my grandmother, I said, "Oh, Nan, I'm going to Ireland," and she thought, oh, which one? You know, so that's how very small the.
Yeah.
How would I say? You know, they think it's the Pacific Islands. You know, is it Samoa, Tonga? You know, so I said no, it's like a 30-hour flight away. So yeah, I decided to leave home, and you know, it was very daunting. You know, New Zealand's obviously a big rugby country, but when you think of Northern Hemisphere, you automatically think of Munster. You know, so they held it such high regard. You know, no matter where you are in the world, but they definitely are held high regard in New Zealand. That's for sure.
And you stepping into a dressing room with the likes of Paul O'Connell as well, Nick. So what was that like?
Yeah, that was a that was a different beast, bro. Like I hardly could understand the accent, let alone the shouting. So it was it was exciting. It was daunting. It was something that I learned a lot of lessons from, and you know, and I still watch Munster with a lot of passion, you know, because they've been setting the standard of European rugby for a long time.
Yeah, and of course, in between that, you go to Italy as well, and then a brilliant interview you did with Rugby Pass a couple of months ago, Nick. You talked about sort of embracing the culture in Italy, and sort of that was a massive thing for you and your family. And was that the case when you moved to Ulster as well? Because I know your old coach was obviously at Ulster at the time, but was it about you trying to settle into a new club, but also embracing that environment as well?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, mate, you know, my partner and I, my partner at the time, who's my wife now, so I don't know how to do it, but yeah, we thought, you know, it was such a big ride from New Zealand and then Munster. We said, okay, let's go and experience, you know, play a bit of rugby and experience a bit of the culture in Europe. So, you know, we made the choice to go to Italy, and that was amazing. You know, we made some lifelong friends who just came and visited us this weekend. So it was just a massive eye opener. You know, whereas New Zealand is such a bubble. You know, it's all about rugby, all about rugby. Obviously, Cork and Limerick is about rugby as well. But where we were in Italy was a very small little Italian town, and 80% of the people that know what rugby was all about football. You know, and it showed me a different. I saw the world in a different scope, if that makes sense. You know, because rugby had been such a big part of my life for so long. And then I thought, well, actually, you know, there's actually bigger and better things out there. So, yeah, my girlfriend and I at the time, we just decided, oh, come on, let's go live the life for a bit. We lived the 2 years out there, and then, like I said, we had a family. My second year in Italy, and then Big Mark Anscombe comes asking for me my second year, which I don't know if I said before, but I was actually going to go back to New Zealand.
Yeah.
I was going to go in the comforts of, you know, being around my family and just what I know. But yeah, it was a choice. It was pretty hard for me to make. I look back at it, and it was by far one of the best choices I think I've ever made.
Yeah, and you touch on Mark there, Nick. Was he a massive influence in you settling down with Ulster, and maybe a part of you, what you just said there, that it was a really, really good choice for you in the end?
Oh yeah, I've always said that it was 99% of the decision, really. Mark knows how I tick. You know, he knows that if my family are well taken care of, you know, my wife and my kids are, then I'll be playing the best rugby that I can possibly can. And he learned that obviously from New Zealand, because he was my first professional coach in New Zealand. So he knew that's what made me, what made me bubble, and thankfully it worked for us in Belfast.
And in just terms of Ulster and Munster, if you don't mind, you said there that when you think of Northern Hemisphere rugby, you automatically think of Munster. So what makes those two provinces so strong? Because ever since I've started following rugby, those two sides have always been going deep in European competitions, if not winning them. Yeah,
that's a tough one, isn't it? Like, I would have thought there would have been a big pool of rugby players, because obviously New Zealand's 99% of people play rugby, so there's a decent pool. But obviously, you've got Gaelic football, hurling, which I didn't believe were the two biggest games in Ireland, and they're non-professional. So, you know, it's, you know, I've said it before, the passion and the emotion that these boys bring to the game is something I've never seen before, both in Belfast and down in the Republic. You know, I probably was a wee bit guilty of maybe taking it for granted in Munster. But I'd like to think that I made up for it when I went up to Belfast.
And why do you think you maybe took it for granted at Munster? Was it because it was sort of your first step into European rugby and getting a feel for that culture, do you think?
I think I just grew up.
Yeah.
I think I just put my big boy undies on, and obviously it's amazing what kids do to you. So it was a collection of things really. And obviously Mark knowing that if everything was all right for me off the field, I'd be able to give 110% for him on the field. And that's it goes both ways as well. Mark's he's very straight up the gut. There's no grey area with him. If he doesn't like you, he doesn't like you. If he loves you, he loves you. So it's those kind of things. And just I can't really put my finger, but if I had to put it down to a T, I'd have to give majority of my thanks to Mr. Old Anscombe there.
Yeah. And then after your time with Ulster, Nick, obviously Cardiff Blues comes calling. We'll just go on to a couple of your highlights in a few minutes. But with what we've been doing over this lockdown period is speaking to a few players who maybe stepped away from the game or because of COVID-19, their contracts have unfortunately ended. And one of those players was DTH van der Merwe, who was with Glasgow. And one of the key things that struck home with me when we spoke to him was that he said, I never got the chance to say goodbye and thank you properly to his Glasgow fans. And I guess maybe that was a similar thing for you because of the season being cut short and with Cardiff Blues.
Yeah, I actually I thought about that quite a bit throughout the COVID. Knowing because obviously I'd spoken to boys in Italy where it hit strongest the most, and that was something on my mind is what if I don't get this last game? The last time when you run across the pitch or when you get in the huddle with all the boys and the brothers in the changing room. What if I don't get that? I said, I'm thinking about the one time. What about all the other times that I've had this, that chance? And I look back at it with fond memories. It was not once that I take those times for granted. Whether I was talking to the boys or where I was listening, I just always remember that. I know it does sound cliche, but you always think, geez, this is you got to pinch yourself, whether it was beginning of my career or towards the end, because there's times like that you just think, that it sends the old shivers down your spine. So, different tricks or different folks, really. I'll just always remember the last time I ran off. It was up in Edinburgh, actually. Yeah, it was up in Edinburgh. That was my last game. But I remember a couple of weeks before that, I ran off at Arms Park when my mother was over. And that there was that's the thing I always remember, mate.
I was going to come on to sort of personal highlights, and a team highlight will be European success a couple of years ago, but running out with your mum in the crowd or wherever she was in the stadium must have been a special moment, because I think the video last Christmas went viral and everyone in rugby was touched by sort of what the club did, and it would have been a special moment for yourself as well, Nick.
100%, mate. 100%. My mum still harps on about it. I think I'm Zoom calling her tomorrow, and I'm sure she'll tell me like she's told me a million times before that. And no, it's things like, especially for us foreigners, because we come up here and we leave our families, we leave what we're used to, similar surroundings, and that's why I always tell people that want to come up here, you have to buy into the culture, you have to buy into the people. And when Cardiff flew my mother over, I knew that I had in a little, in some shape or form, that I had bought into the Welsh culture, and yeah, that was something I'll never forget. Take away the rugby, that was probably my biggest achievement, is to have my mum come and watch me, which now was my last season. So it's funny how things work out.
Yeah, and in terms of just the team success that we mentioned there, Nick, the European Cup win in Bilbao against Gloucester is something that in recent history Cardiff Blues have been able to celebrate. So for you as a team, how much did that mean to you on the day?
The win, I know. It's funny how I'd explain it. The win was amazing, don't get me wrong. It was how we won it.
Yeah.
That's what, because everybody, if you don't watch the game, you see who won or who lost. But it's the people that were there who watched the game. You just think, geez, we go in half time, we're down by, I know it was 18, 19 points, and then to come out and win it by 1 point, things like that. It's what you see on, on TV, like program like the Mighty Ducks when they do the old flying V and they win it in the last the shot of the game. So it's things like that. It's not supposed to happen, but it did happen. So that's what I always remember. I'm grateful for the win. I'm grateful for everything. With the families coming over, but just how we won it was something. I'd say it is up there with one of my fondest memories on the field anyway.
Yeah, one of the things you picked up on there was sort of the families being flown over to Spain to watch you guys in the final and go on to win. And it probably links back to that culture aspect you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Nick, that Cardiff Blues have sort of embraced that culture. And is that why now you see sort of Wales as your home because of the impact the club have had on you and your family?
Oh, 100%, mate. 100%. I'm big on culture and big on family. Something that I kind of took in. I took personal responsibility for my last couple of seasons at the Blues. Just try and, because I saw the impact that Bill Bell made, and I know for a fact that it was based on the boys running out, that their wives, their girlfriends, their kids aren't watching it. From Wales, they're there right, behind them in the seats at Bill Bell. So. Again, things like that people don't see, but it makes a huge difference for boys that are on the pitch. Obviously, we can't hear them because there's 60, 70,000 people. But, the fact that they're there, makes a hell of a difference. And it's something that I have to, pay homage to Cardiff, for doing. They didn't have to do it, but out of the greatness of their, the gratefulness of their hearts, they flew out, all the boys' wives, partners. My youngest daughter was there as well. It was her birthday on the day that we won, so it was a very, very, very special day, and something again that I know the boys will ever hold close to their hearts.
And it's obviously something you can now reflect on, Nick. Now, the boots have been hung up from yourself. But in terms of you going forward now, in terms of that transition out of rugby, obviously there you're sporting a T-shirt and a hat with the Bearhug company on. And I know you're a non-executive of the company now. Just tell us a bit about them. And was that something that you had in the pipeline before you decided to hang up the boots?
I'll tell you what, it was again by accident, really. When I first came to Cardiff, my first year, I had a major calf tear. And our physio at the time, he throws me this box that was orange. I looked at it and said, bamboo, charcoal, muscle sleeve, joint support, scientifically proven to increase blood by 40%. And anyway, I tried it. I said, look, I'll give it a crack. I'm on the other side of 30 now. So I gave it a crack, and no doubt of a lie, it helped me recover quicker. I came a lot quicker than I was supposed to come back. I think I was supposed to be out maybe 4.5 months. I came back after 3. And the hardest thing about being a fish player is staying on the pitch. And not once did I, after continuing wearing Bearhug, did I have a setback. It just helped me stay on the pitch. It's just ideal, really. It's a great piece of support that I thoroughly support them 100%. And then they come to me about 6 months ago and said, "Oh, Nick, would you like to jump on board, be a non-executive director?" Which I was pretty daunted. I was like, the business world. I've kind of no idea here. My business is usually breaking people's bones. No, yeah. So the lads jumped. They asked me to jump on board. I jumped on board, and it's very the Bearhug pack, which is our motto. It's very rugby-like mentality.
Right. The
team spirit, the camaraderie. We have a good crack and some good laugh with the boys. So they came to me, and it went both ways, really. I can help them in some things. They can help me as well. So it's a win-all kind of situation, and it's something I'm looking forward to. The boys, we're quite a young Welsh brand. I'm big on buying into the culture. So they're quite a young Welsh brand, and they're doing some great things. So I'm looking forward to what the future holds anyway.
Yeah, because you say that the guys came to you 6 months ago and said whether you'd be interested in taking up the role, Nick. So for players who are thinking about stepping away from the game, is it important for you to kind of have plans in place for that transition? Because I know a couple of years ago you did a really good interview in The Guardian that said you have to think about it. It's something that has to be at the forefront of your mind because of how much sacrifice your family have given you for playing. It's now time to sacrifice yourself and go into that working world, if you like, away from the rugby lifestyle?
Yeah, it's imperative. You have to. There's no grey area, like I say. It's in New Zealand now. I know that as soon as boys are even looked at that they could achieve something in rugby, education and post rugby education is something put to the forefront. And I've seen it happen here in Wales and in Belfast as well. So it's something that needs to be. I know it's out there. I know it's out there that the boys need to get onto it, and I know the boys are really. The boys are actually doing their off-site kind of things beyond rugby. But I still think that it can still be nudged a bit more so that people understand that rugby isn't all be all end all kind of thing.
And with that, Nick, as well, I've seen over the course of the last few weeks, you've become an ambassador for, is it the Mental Health Support Network, Blokes? And I guess when we talk about sort of transitioning out of rugby, that's probably the hardest things for players, isn't it? Not having that lifestyle of playing rugby, training every week and playing a game on Saturday, and that massive part of you is taken away. So is mental health and mental health awareness something you're keen to really advocate going forward?
I strongly believe that it's we need to normalise blokes being able to open up. It just needs to be the normal side of things now. There's a stigma that I guess society has painted a picture where blokes can't. And rugby being rugby, it's one of the most manliest sports out there. So people expect boys not to be able to talk up, which is why boys don't really open up. And again, it's a reason why I've jumped on board. I've done a few first aid for mental health courses, and it's just amazing. It blows your mind away. No matter how big and strong you are, the mind is always stronger. So I've jumped onto Blokes. I've been a part of them for about a couple of weeks now. Still learning, and I guess the best thing about that is you're always going to learn and just to educate yourself more, because it is a stigma again, like I said, that we need to overcome, especially nowadays. Some of the rates and statistics out there is very scary. So like I said, we just need to normalise that it's okay to speak up.
Yeah, an important message there, absolutely, Nick. And just finally from me, before I let you go, I won't be a rugby journalist and ask you about the Pro14 resuming this weekend. How much do you think, first and foremost, the lads at Cardiff Blues are looking forward to getting back to action? Because 5 months, or nearly 6 months without rugby is a long time for any player.
The boys so I caught up some of the boys last week, just down at the local coffee shop, and you could see they were over pre-season. Like, oh, bro, we just need to play a game. We need to play games. So everybody's just excited, both for the people to watch as well, to watch on telly, as well as the boys to play the game. So everybody's just raring to go. Just want to bring a bit of normality to the life, since obviously this has hit us. But yeah, everybody's in a good place. Everybody's in a good place, and everybody's. I think the underbelly of it all is the boys that had injuries has given them time to get their injuries right, their niggles right. So when it comes on Saturday, there'll be no excuses. Let's hope not.
Yeah, and in terms of the Blues moving forward as well, Nick, they seem to have got some really good, strong Welsh internationals in there. But in terms of the recruitment the club have been able to bring in as well for next season, it seems that they're starting to build something and the foundations are there. Would you agree with that? And do you think the club are heading in the right direction?
Yes. I on the field, the boys are always strong. On the field, the boys are always strong. It's just a matter of trying to getting the right help, off the field. Whether it be, whether it be the mental side of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, people think that rugby is all about the physical aspect of it, but it's a lot more than that. So at the moment, the boys are looking good physically. Let's hope that they've been able to get things right mentally off the field, which is will put them in good stead. Come on Saturday. But with Corey Hill there, I always hated playing against him. It's just one of these lanky locks, and gutted I can't play with him. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has to bring to Cardiff Blues, because that's probably a position that the Blues have maybe struggled in, the last couple of years. But I'm sure he'll bring, with all his experience, he'll bring a bit of spark to the Blues this season and the next couple of seasons, hopefully.
Yeah, and just finally from me, Nick, obviously it's been a competition which Leinster have been really strong in over the last couple of years. Is it hard to look past them for the overall title, or do you think there could be a challenge from elsewhere?
Mate, now that I'm finished, yeah.
I was going to say, you might not be able to answer that a few weeks ago.
Now that I'm finished, mate, it's hard not to look past him. I put them on the same level as the Crusaders. Just a conveyor belt of talent. And as much as people hate it, it's just awesome to see. They just roll in and out, in and out. You don't know who's a big name, you don't know who's a small name, because they just keep putting performance out performance. But yeah, I'd have to go with them. Looking at how they performed last season and the last couple of seasons, really, they just they look like the pedestal of European rugby.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. Well, we're all looking forward for the Pro14 to begin this weekend coming up. And Talking Rugby Union will be covering the return of the league across the week. So do check us out on talkingrugbyunion.co.uk. Nick, thank you so much for giving us your time to talk through your career and your playing days at Cardiff Blues. Good luck with everything going forward. We'll put all the Bearhug social medias and website into the description of the video. But thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us.
Cheers, bro. Thanks, Chris.
Cheers, Nick. Thank you very much. And that has been another episode of TRU Talks.